Well, okay, starting over, we're going to be talking about one segment of the family, which I know the most about, and it's uh, the Mary Sullivan McGinn, who was the first generation born in this country, and who is your great-great-grandmother, and I believe. And her father was John Sullivan, who came from in the area of Cork, Ireland. He came in the 1840s during the great famine in Ireland with two brothers and a sister. They were all single, and they all married in this country. And he later married, and I don't know her maiden name, but he married Ellen Sullivan. As I say, I don't know her maiden name, but who was 15 years younger than him. And Ellen Sullivan had received some education in Ireland, and she had which had been, later on turned to be a tremendous advantage to his family, because although his children only received an 8th grade education at home, they received a very substantial education from their mother, which later turned to be very advantageous to them. John Sullivan went into, like many of his fellow Irishmen, went into the tanneries in Peabody, where he worked for many years. And he bought a home at 10 Summer Street in Peabody. He had, and I'm trying to think, he had, I think, about 7 or 8 children. And one of the oldest was your great-great-grandmother, Mary Teresa Sullivan McGinn, who had 4 children, of which the only one that survived was your great-grandfather, John McGinn. Her husband, James Henry McGinn, had been in the 6th Cavalry on the Mexican border from 1850 to 1880 to 1885, and he died I think he was 51 years old, and at that time there was not much help for a widow with a child, so she opened up a store in the front room of her home at 22 Spring Street, which she ran for about 10 years, and she ran it 7 days a week, and she later one of her customers was a Mr. Hanson that owned a house at 8 Park Street, and he was a stockbroker in Boston, and he had for some time complained about the commute from Boston to Peabody to Boston. He kept talking about wanting to relocate back in Boston, And she would say to him, if you ever do that, would you give me a chance or an opportunity to buy a house? And one day he came to her and he said he was going to do it. And so she went to the bank and saw if she could get a mortgage on the house. And she was successful at it, and she acquired Park Street, 8 Park Street, which and that was in May the 14th, 1919. And the house has been in the McGinn family since that time, which is, in May the 14th, 2019, it'll be 100 years in the McGinn family, which is an unusual situation for one family. And incidentally, John Sullivan's children at one time owned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses in the neighborhood. So from a penniless man starving to death into Boston Harbor, it was quite an accomplishment, you know. So, and trying to think. Mary McGinn's brother James had a factory that made paste soles in the back of 22 Spring Street. That was I think that that particular business lasted for about 15 years. And he, until that type of product was no longer feasible to manufacture. And the sister of John Sullivan had a daughter that married a man by the name of Barry, who had a tannery on Foster Street, who had children that went to Georgetown University. And one of those children became the superintendent of schools in Northampton, Massachusetts, and the daughter became a school teacher in Peabody High. But getting back to John getting back to John Sullivan's wife, your great-grandmother, Anna E. McGinn, when she married John McGinn, she was kind of lonely in Peabody. She's coming from Cambridge, and she was kind of a different world down in Peabody, and was a small town coming from Boston. And she used to spend some time with her grandmother-in-law, who was, blind because of the cataracts, and she told her all about the McGinn-Sullivan family. She got most of her information from her because spending time with her down in Summer Street. And later, after she died, she and her husband, it was the Great Depression was on, and she and her husband rehabbed that house. And her two brothers, one had just finished hitch in the Navy. My uncle Jim Conn, as they called him, Buster, and my uncle Arthur had just finished, graduated from Ridge Tech, which was a trade school in Cambridge, and they came down, and another Bert Sullivan, another cousin of my father's, he was a plumber, and they rehabbed 10 Summer Street, and we lived in there for 10 years before moving up here to Park Street with my grandmother. At one point in 1941 or so was all alone in this house, all alone. So she had been sickly, and we moved up here, and she moved up to the kitchen and 2 rooms upstairs, and we came to the rest of the house. That's how we came up from Summer Street to Park Street. And then my Uncle Jim was across the street, and he was a brother to my grandmother, and my Aunt Nell was the house next door, then back to Uncle Jim. She was a sister to my grandmother. And then over on Oak Street, you know, there was this, we used to call them the Sullivans on Oak Street. They were first cousins. Their father was a brother to, my great-grandfather. And then there was the Sullivans with the D&R Marketers on Foster Street. They were the Sullivans on Foster Street. So their father was a brother to my grandmother. And so there was, my grandmother's family had been a big family. It was, you know, so, and his name was Bartholomew, and he died in the influenza, the 1918 influenza epidemic. That was quite a thing. It was the whole eastern part of the country got caught up in that, and there were thousands of people that were, they didn't have the vaccines or anything like they do today, you know. And my father was, my father had gone to law school and got good marks, but he never followed through on the bar, and which drove my grandmother nuts. And he was the first one to go to college, and he was much more talented than I'll ever be. But my grandmother kept on me. She was like on me constantly. And I would say, as a young boy, I really wanted to be like a carpenter. She said, "You're not going to be a carpenter." She says, "You're going to go on, you know." And she kept on me like a, you know, and I think that was, yeah, right through. She wanted to see my report cards, and she kept on me like a laser, you know, and thank God. But so, but and my other grandmother, it's funny. Life is a funny thing. At one point we had 2 grandmothers in this house. My grandmother Connors lived with us the last 7 years of her life in here, and she was deaf, which well, you could get right up close to her and yell in her ear and she could hear, but it was, but she'd put the radio on, you could hear it down Peabody Square, I mean, and, but until, you know, she'd be up like that. But, and the hearing devices at that time were nothing like they are now, you know. But anyways, her son, we used to call him Uncle Buster, but his name was James Connors, and he got the star, she got the Stars and Stripes, you know, which is the military newspaper, but all the civil service exams were posted in that. And she would read that, she was a reader, I mean, she read the newspaper from cover to cover because she was, you know, so deaf, and she'd say to me, can you take this, can you know, these civil service exams? And so to get her off my back, I took the, you know, I took the civil service exam for the revenue agents exam, you know, just to get her off my back. Thank God, you know. And I had just come out of taking a CPA review course, so I really hit it right at the top, you know. And because at that point, just there was, you were given, disabled vets got 10 points right off the, added to the thing. And every veteran got 5 points added to the thing, see? So that you had to have, to get a chance, you had to have a real high score to compete, you know? So, but anyways, so in fact, the crowd that I went on with was, there were 120 of us. That was the first crowd put on since like 1932. And when I went on in 1954, and of that, there was only 2 non-vets put on, and it was one other guy and myself. So it was kind of interesting. So anyways,
That's very impressive.
so I'm trying to think. Is it off now?
What, do you want me to turn it on?
Well, no, I'm just trying to think of what,
Here we
just
can-
kill it